House Bill 1041 was a bill about correctional education. Sorry. House Bill 1041 was a bill about correctional education. And I kind of want to talk to y'all about how we're framing it. The win-loss question, I guess you would want to say, like, was this a win or a loss in terms of what we were able to get passed with Delegate Betsy Carr and her staff. House Bill 1041 matters less as a single outcome and more as a case study. Because what it does is, this is killing me. More as a case study in how power is built through policy process of the Virginia General Assembly over time. So this implies that you may get something this year that leads to something quite more later, if you set it up correctly. So House Bill 1041 as passed by the GA. And the reason why it's written that way is because what was initially presented and the substitute that came was a little bit different than what ended up getting passed in conference by the Senate and the House. And what was passed was the ability to create a state prison education task force with multi-sector membership and examine policy options for education in correctional settings. So it talks more about college access for the first time. We realized we had the JLARC study that came out earlier that gave us kind of a snapshot of the educational landscape. There were a few things that we feel like we could have tweaked about that would have been more accurate about the educational landscape. But this bill kind of corrected that. So it establishes a subgroup, the Higher Education Advisory Group, and it centers VCHEP members inside of formal state policy conversations. This is the big piece that I thought I wanted to present and lean on. This Higher Education Advisory Group is you. It's you. It's every person in this room that's participating in the strategic planning. And that is why House Bill 1041 is such a win. As soon as this bill is signed by the governor, we're looking to reach out to who would be the Secretary of Finance. I'm talking about his name, the chair. I'm sorry. Secretary of Finance Sickles, who's the chair of the Higher Education Advisory Group and the Prison Education Task Force. And we're going to make sure that this work kind of gets folded into what that particular bill called for. So it gives our strategic planning a next step in possible formal adoption. So the recommendations that come out of this strategic planning group will inform or could potentially inform the legislation that goes in 2027. I would argue that it will, because that is what the bill is asking for. It also formally recognizes prison higher education as a statewide coordination, public policy question, not just a set of isolated special projects. And that is important. That is a step away from the pilot programs that we were doing and more of a peanut butter smear across the state in terms of making sure that all of our major institutions have college programs. It's not over. Pending signatures of the Speaker of the House and President of the Senate, the bill is transmitted to the governor for signature. A signature, amendment, or veto. Last year, House Bill 2158 was sent back by the governor with a exception that he wanted to make, or an amendment that would have delayed the enactment of the bill for a year or more, and the patron rejected that amendment. This year, we believe Governor Spanberger, our team got a chance to talk to Governor Spanberger about this bill before our election, or about our project before our election, and she seemed very supportive of it. So we're really hopeful that this bill will get signed. So stay tuned. It'll be by April 13th. I thought I saw more slides. Okay. 1041 did not directly expand access to college education. So what that means is the way that it was initially written, it demanded the signing of MOUs with VCCS and to create this statewide coalition. This is the way it was initially written. A lot of it got gutted from the bill. And in all honesty, it happened in Senate Finance. Because the FIS was, hey, we just know it's gonna cost a lot of money. And it didn't give us a direct number to go and talk to them about. The House was able to pass it just fine, but not so much in the Senate. But the reason why that's important is because passing legislation is not the same as solving a problem, right? So the people in this room, all the stakeholders that just stood up, they have the ability to support this kind of legislation in 2027 by informing the strategic planning process now. And we also would like to see some of that support in the building in the General Assembly next year. So hopefully that's what will be coming out of our strategic plan. The structures created by House Bill 1041 are tools, but they are not concrete beneficial outcomes for incarcerated individuals yet. So they set the stage for us to do these things, but we have to follow through. We have to act on those things. That's why this work is so important. So we're meeting once every month, but what needs to be happening in between is thoughtful answers to these charges and questions that we're asking. Because we have to solve these in order to implement what we know to be the solution for higher education in prison. So we went from projects to a system. It recognizes prison education as a coordinated system in Virginia, making it subject to planning, evaluation, and long-term investment rather than isolated pilots. Like I said before, we've had the pilot programs, and we're really proud of what we've been able to accomplish and what those colleges have accomplished as well as those other prisons. But they were a lot of times isolated incidents where we would, one prison, one MOU, one school, where we would like to see something a little bit more broad. And this bill sets the stage for that. Advisory groups and task forces shift stakeholders from requesting attention to being inside the forums where policy priorities are shaped. So instead of crying about the problem, we get to be the people who write the solutions. So I'm really excited about the work we get to do. So we need to get prepared, we gotta coordinate, and we need to be strategic about our movement and participation. So we don't need to do the symbolic process thing. Right? We need the real deal, substantial information that will lead to change. You're going to hear some great information today. This is a really well thought out program that will hopefully inform our next steps. So, strategy starts long before a bill is introduced. That is today. I am the first-hand knowledge of this. I'm telling you, the work that happens in the GA is the work that we do right now up until 2027. It's never what's happening in the General Assembly building. The outcomes are set before the vote. Before we actually walk into a room to see legislators vote on a bill, their minds are already made up. I'll give you one instance. When the Senate bill, substitute, moved to the Senate Finance Full Committee, the text wasn't even available. And somehow they were able to vote on that bill. So bills are usually decided, the votes are decided before we ever get to the actual floor. So implications for advocacy, waiting until the GA session to build support is a losing strategy. We gotta do it right now. And we build support by the work we're doing in this case. We also can spread awareness and talk to folks about what we're doing, trust building among increasing allies, which I'm really proud of since I've been at the Virginia Consensus to see how many stakeholders have joined. This has been quite a long journey of work to get folks to be a part of this room and get you people in this room to solve the problems we're trying to solve. So, we also need a clear read on political and stakeholder incentives and constraints. Change often starts as task forces and study groups first. So the change that we know is so important, the change that mattered to Sincere Allah. And the reason why I'm bringing his name up is because Sincere was actually in prison and wrote from Sussex 2 to start college programs at the prison he was at. He was always a part of this prison education task force. He was part of the reason why we're fighting for higher education in Virginia, because folks like him and others were looking to have access to these programs. But change starts in rooms like this and with the work that we've already started doing. There are not lesser wins. Some folks will walk away from House Bill 1041 and say, man, we didn't get what we originally asked for. But we actually did get something. I thought my phone was on silent. The takeaway, advocating for 1041 was a strategic investment. Its return depends on using the new task force and advisory group. So what we do in here is going to determine the value of House Bill 1041 and what we do legislatively in 2027. Lastly, concrete contributions that you all can make, strategic planning participation that will turn opportunity into outcomes. Each member has a practical role, right? identifying missing voices, build and maintain relationships with key stakeholders, and strengthen shared narratives. I want to personally implore each group to make space for those directly impacted. It is an art. It's an art. Because a lot of people in the room professionally are used to being in your professional role. Directly impacted, not so much. And sometimes you have to engage them because they will be the litmus tests to what you think your solutions may be and maybe tell you why they won't work or what will work. Policy needs to be grounded in reality, and that comes from those folks who actually walk that walk. We'll talk a little bit more about that later with the journey maps. And collective discipline drives success. So success will come from coordinated effort and not just individual advocacy. We got to work together to build shared trust and clarity. And we're moving on to theme 1.